Guys, we got a Hyundai Tucson today. This one's a 2007 model. It's a 4-cylinder 2-liter engine, G4GC. I think that's the engine on this one. It's coming up with engine light. That's a customer complaint. Other than that, there's absolutely no other complaint. And you can see we got a mass airflow sensor, circuit A input low, P01 or 2. That's the fault code we got. So every time we start the car, basically the fault code returns pretty quickly, so that's what's happening. So let's go on live data and we'll see what's sort of data we're seeing. So airflow sensor, as you can see, the data is moving. It's at 8.9 kilogram per hour. Okay, so the data is showing us some signal coming out of that mass airflow sensor. We got 8.7. Let me go and rev this car a little bit. As you can see, my data is changing. I'm gonna go and unplug the mass airflow sensor, which I'll do now. Alright, my mass airflow sensor is unplugged. Now let's watch the data. Still sitting at 8 at idle. I'm gonna go and rev the car. See, it looks like the sensor is working, but it's not. It's just the computer default data. You can see over there my mass airflow sensor is completely disconnected. Okay, but we're still seeing data on the scan tool. So on this plug, I just took the cover off on this one, just on the back of that sensor plug. Right, we got 5 wires. This is also going to have our temperature sensor wires there as well. So 2 of them going to be temperature sensor, 3 wires is going to be for my mass airflow sensor. The 2 wires, which is, I have identified that on the wiring diagram. Even without that, you can still figure it out. It's not a big deal on this one. So the last 2 pins, the blue and the green one on each end, those 2 wires, blue and the green, are my temperature sensor wires, which is going to be 5 volt and earth. Okay, and in this car, temperature sensor is working fine, no problem. Our concern is only mass airflow sensor. Okay. Now this is analog type mass airflow sensor, meaning 0, 5. So it's going to go 0 volt for low air, 5 volt, almost 5 volt for a lot of air. Okay, basically 0, 5 volt minimum maximum range. So pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is check our power, ground and signal. That's all there is. There's 3 wires. So basically my test light is connected to battery positive at the moment, and whenever I find ground, this test light will light up. So the ground is the black wire on this one, right next to the green color wire. So I'm gonna just go and check it. You can see my test light lighting up. That's my ground. Okay, now we're gonna check our power feed for the sensor. I'm gonna just switch my test light to battery negative. And whenever I find the positive on the tip of the test light, my test light should light up. So on this one, the cream color wire, cream or white, you can sort of say, next to the blue wire. Okay, so that one's gonna be my power, which is right one there. So that's my power. So the earth and power is present at the sensor. Okay, now the middle one, the very middle one, which is my gray wire, is going to be my signal. So what we're going to do is we're going to just quickly see if there's any voltage presence at the moment. So for that one, I'm going to have to use a scope. Okay, and I have nothing. It's just sitting at 0 volts. So I'll take you up on the screen in a minute. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug this, back probe this gray wire basically, and I'm gonna plug this connector back on the mass airflow sensor. As you rev the car, it should go from 0, 1 volt up towards the 5 volt. That's how it's gonna work. So I'm gonna start the car and let's see what signals we get. Okay, so I'm still staying at sort of 0 volt. I'm gonna rev the car. and that sensor has not moved at all. The signal has not moved at all. However, if we go onto scan tool like we saw earlier, right? However, my sensor is reading 8 kilogram per hour on my scan tool, and if I rev it, I don't know if I can do it with one hand. Let me see. I can't do that. I'll just put that down here. So I'll get you focused on that screen. That's my mass airflow sensor. I'm gonna go rev it. As you can see, my grams per second or kilograms per hour is moving up and down with the revs. However, we got no signal change on the scope up there. So meaning this sensor may not be producing any signal, or the computer is not receiving. One or two things can happen right here, okay? So what we're gonna do to make sure our signal is reaching at the computer, what we're gonna do, all we're gonna do is we're gonna induce our own voltage. So we know this sensor works between 0 and 5 volts, right? So my cool feature on this Autel scan tool is that I can generate voltage on this lead. Okay, I'm just using my scope, using my VCI box connected to this cable here, the multimeter cable on the back of it. I can send voltage in this wire, in this cable. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. So basically, if we go here and we're gonna do a split screen, and then we're gonna go to measurements, and then we're gonna go to the waveform generator. So I can select any voltage I like from 0 to 12 volts with this scan tool, and I can induce that voltage into anything I like using just the multimeter cable. Okay, Right, let's start around 1 volt. That should usually be enough for idle sort of speed, idle situation for engine. 1 volt for mass airflow sensor is pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is, all I'm gonna do here is, while I got my scope hooked up, the same gray wire, the middle wire on this mass airflow sensor, right? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect that, back probe that, and send that 1 volt through the mass airflow sensor connector for the engine computer. I'm gonna introduce some voltage into this mass airflow sensor, and we'll see how the computer reacts. Okay, so right now I'm sitting at 9.8 kilograms at the moment with 1 volt supply. So let's increase the voltage. I'm gonna go 2 volt. And you can see there was a little bit of delay. The engine is sort of shaking and not running right, because that number jumped from 8 kilograms to 40 something kilogram. Let me try again, and now computer is defaulted back to 10. Let me try again, different voltage. Let's go 1, let's go 2 volts. Let's see, there's 41 jump to, let's go 3 volts. Okay, let's go 3 volts. Let's see what it does. 130 kilogram. You can see the numbers are changing, but as soon as the computer sees that it's not right, computer try to correct it, which is in this car it's happening. So computer just corrected it. It drops down to 12 kilograms. So what that basically means is my wiring from the mass airflow sensor all the way to the computer is good. There's no short, there's no open, and the computer is receiving the signal. The problem with this car is the mass airflow sensor. If you change the mass airflow sensor, we'll fix this car. We got the new mass airflow sensor fitted. The middle wire, which is your gray wire, is our signal like we discussed, and up on the screen you can see it's sitting at 1 volt, right, which is normally at idle they sit about 1 volt, and when I rev it, it'll go up to 4 volts, 3-4 volts. Okay, so wide open throttle, about 4 volts. You can see it's almost reaching up 4 volts, so it's working just fine. This is what you're supposed to see. The other day it wasn't moving at all, so there you go. That's a fix for this one. Thank you guys.